Hi everyone, I'm Vanessa Kellums. I'm going to be talking to you about coaching the mental side of athletics. I am a doctoral candidate here at Westcliff University. I'm also the head softball coach. Today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about my coaching background. We're going to talk about the mental concepts in athletics, the mindset development in athletics, and teaching the mentality and the implementation into athletics. So I've been coaching for over 15 years. I coach athletes of all ages, all abilities. I have coached athletes that have competed at Olympic trials. I coached athletes who competed at the Special Olympic trials and who have had severe disabilities. I've worked with sports psychologists and biomechanics to better myself as a coach and be able to implement these strategies into my coaching. So the mental concepts that are commonly used in athletics. There is a strong stigma against mental toughness. Now, what the stigma is not technically mental toughness, it's having a perfectionist mindset, or better known, a fixed mindset. This is where athletes believe that they have to be 100%, 100% of the time, always excelling, always on their A game, never messing up, never showing any struggles, never showing any failures or anything that is negative. What mental toughness really is one's ability to perform under adversity. So ability to effectively cope with the demands of training and competition. This is more of a growth mindset. So an individual with a fixed mindset believes that there is nothing that they can do. They are stuck the way they are. They are going to be the best they can ever be, and that is it. There's no progress, nothing. While an individual with a growth mindset believes that, hey, I might be here, but I know through training, through exercise, through nutrition, other forms of development, I can become a better athlete and I can reach those goals. The old stigma against mental toughness and the perfectionist mindset is what has caused a lot of mental health issues that we see commonly in athletics: stress performance anxiety, high levels of depression, higher dropout rates, and also higher risk of injuries. While individuals with an actual mental tough mindset or a growth mindset have shown to be more successful. So some studies have actually shown in wrestlers that individuals who felt that they were mentally tough, they're mentally prepared, and they've done the training and the competition and they had a growth mindset, were actually 50% more successful in their competition. They also showed that they were able to go longer into the matches. If they went overtime, were able to have more reversals and go deeper into their counts. Having this growth mindset is also being mindful. So this is where athletes understand that even though we're at this limitation, they're aware of their limits. They're aware of their goals. They're not blindly reaching towards things. They're achieving and setting small goals, helped set by the coaches, that they can achieve within a good timeline. So talking about mindsets. So very commonly you'll hear fixed and growth mindsets. To take a deeper dive, there's actually more mindsets. And what we're looking at in this project that we're kind of going through right now and designing is we're trying to challenge our student athletes here and the softball team and put them in a specific position and personally challenging situations and challenge them to work through the physical and the mental side. Softball is a huge game of failure. If you are only successful 30 to 40% of the time, you're doing great. That's really solid. However, we're taught through academics and society that if you're failing that 70% of the time, that's horrible. So teaching athletes to shift of a mindset that we commonly see in society and academics to a different mindset that we see in athletics is our biggest challenge. And we do this by challenging them in situations and trying to get them to understand what their actions are doing, what they're doing, and shift them from their fixed mindset and into the growth mindset. And what we do and how we're doing this is we're working with a company that has developed a logarithm that has different mindsets, and it helps individuals better analyze them and put them into different categories. So instead of just being, yes, you have a growth mindset, but you have a growth mindset and you're considered a trailblazer. You have a growth mindset and you're considered a rocket type of athlete. And this helps us coaches because then we can take a deeper dive and really figure out what the strengths of the student, where they might struggle, what motivates them, what inspires them. And it gives us some defining traits. Now, for the most part, we do know our athletes well because we have either been recruiting them for over a year or we've been with them for 2 years now, since the program's been around for 2 years. So we've gotten better at understanding and knowing what they adapt to, what learning styles they work with. But this is taking it to a next level, and it's helping us put these athletes and make these athletes aware. It's like not just us saying it, but statistically and science is showing like, hey, these are your 10 trends. This is where these are things that we think that motivates you. So we're going to use this in our coaching methods to help motivate you and reach those goals and help them reset and develop coping strategies and other sports-related psychological strategies that they can use in competition and help develop that mental toughness. It doesn't want to change up. There you go. So teaching the mental side of athletics. We'll just move this a little bit. So this we developed to be more of a 16-week course, something that we wanted to do throughout the fall, and we're going to be testing it again this upcoming fall with our new class. But essentially what we're trying to do is a progressive breakdown and scaffolding for the athletes to understand themselves better and understand the softball game better and how we can help them as coaches progress and be more mentally tough as an athlete and help them get into that champion mindset. So we do this by helping them first understand them, determining their strengths and determining their weaknesses and really being honest. There are times where students have thought that something is a weakness, they hate it, they do it all the time. That's actually a strength for them and something that we see as like, hey, that's not a bad thing. Like that is a good thing. It's a driving factor that we can help. Now you might be using it the correct way, but we can help you shift it and show these athletes in different scenarios of how we can be positive and shift these weaknesses into strengths. And we're doing this by doing personalized learning, divergent learning, and even problem evaluation, where they get to really sit down and see like, okay, this is my issues, this is where I struggle, and this is what I want to get towards. And then we take it a step further. We try to really nitpick a little bit, and we try to figure out what the triggers are. So we ask student athletes and say, okay, when you're put in a stressful situation or when you're just having a bad day and it's not going your way, what are your natural tendencies? Or what are triggers or things that you do and that you do not like and it has a negative effect? We sit down with our athletes, we start to problem analyze and figure out, okay, what is causing this? Is this something internal? Is it something external? Is it something subconsciously that we're doing? And then we start to model this behavior so that they're visually aware of it happening. And while we're doing this modeling, we're also providing verbal feedback to them on how we can shift that negative side of their mindsets and their personality traits more into things that are going to be positive traits or ways that we can show them that, hey, let's shift it from this into this. And that way it's not going to negatively impact them on the field and it's not going to negatively impact them on the team. As we've seen in all sports, the minute you struggle with something, your shoulders start to hunch, your head gets down, that negativity, even though it's subconscious, is what fuels the other team and it brings your team down too. So we're working on trying to show our athletes that these conscious and unconscious tendencies, we just have to be aware of and then know how to counteract them. And we also do this by videoing them. So while we're trying to determine their tendencies and things that they might not be aware of, we are filming them. We are trying to, we do our conditioning at the beginning of practice. We do work them to they are physically and mentally exhausted and before we actually get to the nitty-gritty part of our practice. So that way, when we're at practice and we're taking our reps, they are physically exhausted and they're trying to work through those mental and physical barriers. And that's where we can really see those tendencies of when they are making mistakes, what's happening, what are they saying to the teammates, what is all going on, and how they're interacting with us coaches. And we do this for about a 6-week period. And as we are working through with the athletes on their triggers and being more problematic and providing that verbal feedback and seeing that change. What we do at the end of this is we work with the student athletes and we apply personal strategies that they can use to develop this mental resilience and mental toughness. And for example, one might be if they're hitting and they're hitting against our top pitcher, say they got 2 strikes. One coping strategy that we really worked on with them to develop is finding a target or a safe place on the field, something that they can stare at. They can reset their mind We give them a good positive self-talk. Use Vygotsky's theory and say like, hey, I can do this. Just a little bit harder. This is a little bit more challenging, but I'm right there. And get that self-control again and get them that control and that strength that they need to be mentally tough to get back in the box and be more successful. So like I mentioned, we're using Vygotsky's theories. We're trying to challenge them and push them each week. We've used modeling and along with verbal and video feedback. And then we're also using differentiated learning. So because we're a sport with 9 different positions, we are using differentiated learning from sport or from position to position and also from individual to individual. And we're working with them and talking with them to understand what they're going through mentally, what they're thinking physically, while making the physical adjustments. A lot of it, when it comes to us at this level, they have the physical down. It's mainly a little tweaking here and there, but it's actually working on developing their mental toughness so that they can be successful. And at the end of the 16-week program in this period, we sit down with the athletes and we talk with them about creating convergent and divergent learning. So creating those solutions, saying, okay, here's your problem, what's the solution, and saying, all right, here's multiple solutions, and then finding out what's the best one for them. That way, when they're in different scenarios, different situations, and they're having those different emotions, they have those personalized solutions that they can go to. And one way that we do this is we will group our athletes that are very similar mindsets with athletes that maybe are a different mindset that we're trying to shift into. So that way they can use peer teaching and blind practice, and they can see like, oh, hey, that's how they're reacting. Okay, that's how they're taking this. And so it's similar, like having our captains out there showing our other athletes of the behaviors and the role models and the things that we want to exemplify on our team. And it's going to change again. There it goes. So kind of like how I mentioned, how we're implementing this in athletics is practice. We got to practice on a daily. It is a habit that we have to develop and something we have to learn. And as Brandon Burchard said, is there are only 2 narratives in the human story: struggle and progress. You can't have the latter without performance. So practice on daily and reminding our students that struggle is good. We want struggle. We want difficulties because that means we're progressing towards our goals. If we're already there and we're already successful, we can't continue to go up. So we teach our athletes that failure is a good thing, and that just means that we're growing, we're coming better, and that we don't want to hit that peak until we're in the postseason conference tournament or whatever is our biggest game, as long as it's nationals or the World Series. One of the things that we do is to help develop those personalized situations is we do something called Warrior Challenge. So I picked this up from Oklahoma a couple of years back, and anyone on the team, captains, coaches, players, even our trainers can call out a Warrior Challenge. And what we do is we'll call off one individual and we'll put them in what they consider a very personalized, stressful situation. And what we're trying to do is create a championship situation. So everyone will stop, everyone will get loud, we'll put our speaker, we'll blast the music so it is so drowning and so loud, very stressful. We'll have our athlete do an exercise, maybe some jumping jacks, burpees, so that they're already physically feeling the cortisol and everything pumping through the blood and energy is even a little higher. And then we'll run them through the scenario. And what we're trying to do is put them in that high pressure situation to mimic a championship game or the situation where it's the 7th inning, bases loaded, scoring runs on third base, you got to find a way to push them. So when they do actually get into that situation, it's routine. They've done it 1,000 times. They're mentally strong and mentally tough, and their body can feel comfortable enough to where like, hey, we practice this. We've had to practice even harder. This is nothing. And by doing this, Warrior Challenges, becomes more apparent to the coaches and the athletes maybe what strategies they're using to cope and reset themselves and going into those situations, or where they're struggling. And then we can go back and talk to them about being mentally tough, or what areas they started to have subconscious behavior slipping in and things that started to affect them, or even outside things that they have to learn to nullify and work through. And we do this by slowing down practice, sometimes talking with them and shifting that negative into a positive and giving that second to reset, recope. We have signals with our captains when we see the team starting to spiral. We'll give them that signal, and that's their signal saying, okay, hey, you got to bring your team in. You got to talk with them. You got to get everyone back on the same page and reset. So this is a big critical thing that we do with our captains because we're only allowed on the field so many times per inning. So it allows them to have that role to where they can go out. And that is it. Thank you.